Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you with a review on The King of the Ring from 1993. I watched this on the WWE Network. One of the very most awesome things you guys could be going out there and watching, just diving down into the history of all the WWF pay-per-views out there. I'm always a big fan of tournaments. Wrestling in its time has put on a lot of good tournaments and a lot of bad tournaments, and this was a really special pay-per-view to me as a kid. I remember thinking that, from watching WWF Superstars growing up, that I thought it was really cool that almost everybody in this tournament had to fight a match on Superstars in order to qualify into it. It was a way to see a lot of the top stars wrestle other semi-top stars in order to get them in. Like, I believe Lex Luger, who was fighting as the Narcissist at this time, he had to have a match against Bob Backlund. That's a match that I remember in my mind. They ended up not qualifying for the tournament due to a brawl and a double countout. Shawn Michaels and Crush, a match that was on pay-per-view, was a match that was on Superstars as well, trying to get them into the tournament. It was just a very fresh, very cool idea. This was coming off of WrestleMania 9. This was a good show. It's not a great show, but basically, because of the controversy and everything like that, everybody that had to wrestle their way in, Jack Tunney sort of said, okay, Yokozuna's going to fight Hogan for the championship since he was the last champion. Bret, they feel bad for him because he lost his right to a rematch because the champion lost the belt before he even got a shot to go back after it with a rematch. The tournament was sort of set up around Bret Hart. He was the number one seed into the tournament for the reason, they wanted to make sure that he got something out of it. There was no promises, as there was later, like when you go to, I think, King of the Ring 95, that was won by King Mabel. He got to move on and become the number one contender for the championship at the SummerSlam. I don't know if that was really set in stone or if that was the storyline that they pushed along the way. But there was no promises on what you would get out of the deal other than being the king of WWF. This was set up sort of like it was the first King of the Ring tournament of all time, but the King of the Ring was a tournament they had run on house shows to sort of spike interest in the. They always did them at this one venue, but I can't remember which one it was. Not MSG, but it was a certain show they normally ran as the King of the Ring show, and Macho Man had won it. I think Harley Race had won it. Junkyard Dog had won it in the past. So there had been past King of the Rings, but since this was the debut of a new pay-per-view built around it, they acted like it was the first one. The first match of the night was Bret Hart against Razor Ramon. This match was mostly just to see Bret Hart get beat up. So as the storyline would continue, Bret wasn't going into these next few matches fresh because in order to win the King of the Ring, the way it was set up with a tournament of, I guess that'd be 16 guys. No, 16 guys. Yeah, well, however many guys are in there, you would have to fight three times in order to reach the finish and be crowned the King of the Ring. You would have to win 3 matches. Razor was the first perfect opponent for him. At this time, he was still wrestling as the heel. This was years removed, but people still remembered the match there where Razor Ramon challenged Bret Hart for the WWF Championship at the Royal Rumble. So this was a good match. It was a rematch, and Razor really took it to Bret. He got the overwhelming first blows. It came to Razor Ramon trying to give Bret a suplex off the top rope, trying to end it all. Bret just landed right. He was able to roll Razor up, and even though he was beat up, he was able to get the pin in about 10 minutes. An awesome match, an awesome way to start the show. The semifinal match between Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect. So many things can be thought about, because in the pre-match promos, Mr. Perfect told Bret he still owed him one from SummerSlam 1991, even though it was 2 years ago. He was still fresh in people's minds. One of the greatest matches I think I've ever seen, and some people even picked this King of the Ring match over it. When I was watching this, I really did like the match for the one fact that there was the time limit draw, even though for some reason Wikipedia has the match listing as 18 minutes and 56 seconds. Maybe that's counting the intros because the whole thing was built around 15-minute time limits, as we saw, or maybe just WWF fucked up and they were hyping it up and they just never really rang the bell and the guys just went long because they were feeling it out there. But now I feel stupid. But the reason why I really like this match as well is that the announcers are hyping it up. They have to get this job done. Instead, at SummerSlam, they're going out there and they have as much time as they needed. They could have wrestled for an hour. They could have wrestled for 2 hours. Just as long as you found somebody to find out who the Intercontinental Champion was, that's all that mattered. But in this one, if there was a disqualification, if there was a count out, if there was a draw, something like that, if they weren't able to get this done, Bam Bam Bigelow was moving on, and not only was he going to be advancing in the tournament, he was going to win the tournament because they couldn't find another opponent for him. So Bret and Perfect were really giving each other, like I said, not as great as the SummerSlam match, but still really, really good. Bret Hart was able to get the pin on Perfect and move on to the finals from there. And from there, we have some filler matches in order to get Bret some rest in order to get there. And the more time that Bret's getting rest, Bam Bam's getting just even more. We saw Bret Hart beat Bam Bam Bigelow in the finals. From there, he moved on and what would be setting up the next big angle for Bret the Hitman Hart, as he wasn't going to be in the championship run anymore. They needed something running for him. He was presented with the crown, the scepter. They put the robe on him. Jerry the King Lawler came out and attacked him, basically saying that he was the only king of wrestling. And you can see Bret just laid out on the ground. Bret, it was I think he got struck with the scepter and struck with the hat, just sort of taking it away. But nobody really wanted to see King Bret the Hitman Hart from here on out. But I don't think anybody really could see what was coming with the Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler feud. Most people probably would think they would just have one match. They would go on to SummerSlam. Of course, at SummerSlam, Jerry the King Lawler played chicken, that he didn't want to fight him. He had Doink the Clown come out there for him, and Bret beat Doink. And then Jerry jumped in and tried to hit him with his crutch because of that. Gorilla Monsoon said that the match must go on. Bret Hart versus Jerry the King Lawler, and then they had the Kiss My Foot match, and this, that, and the other. It was a big stepping stone for Bret in his career. Even though he wasn't like the champion, he still was in a big-time role for WWF, as in a major star that people really wanted to see and people really wanted to get behind. This was an awesome way to kick off the King of the Ring shows. I'm sure that I'll be watching more of these down the road. I know a lot of them get really, really bad, but Bret Hart, more than likely one of the best King of the Rings of all time. This was a good show. Highly recommend you guys should go check it out on the WWE Network. $10 a month. How do you not have this?